Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel.
Oh, so lively. Yeah. But we did. We had a good time. I do so far. I mean, I don't mean it that way, but you know what? I really, you know, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Oh, well, we're trying. We're trying to.
No.
So we have a small board today. It's usually all business, all medical, and vacation facilities and all that.
Yeah, here.
If I could ever get someone to just put in what they were going to do.
Okay,
Every teacher of mine says do something, if they could just do it in real life, my days would be so much happier. I probably just have to charge myself on my one.
You as well, you as well. Yeah, nice meeting you.
Karen will tell you, she knows all the
So I just like this, and then we went and we did
Busy as always.
Oh, that's
Same
good.
as everyone.
Good, that's right. You got that right.
Yep.
Very busy. Hard to believe the school year is coming to an opening.
Oh, it's too fast. I have so much paint left to do at another school.
Yes, should be. To my knowledge. She has already.
You don't have a plan. You probably should.
Not Jane, not tonight.
Who is it? I liked that night, and I hope that Francesca sees that.
Just think you had your picture on it.
Watch for the revolving piano. You'll be surprised.
From your singing escapades.
Terry had a 4.5 pound fish. It was a highlight.
If that's the goal.
Where's Forest Lake? Oh, yeah? Is that around here somewhere? Forest Lake around here?
Right there, right there. Yep. Do you need a pencil? Oh, that's so fun.
I didn't recognize you at first.
Well, actually, yeah. And Liz and I were there the night before. Yeah, Liz.
She probably understood.
The opera. Liz,
Yeah.
yeah.
Francesca was one of the ones. Girl right here. Turn around and say hi.
I'm also
Just
wearing
wait a
glasses,
second.
that could be confusing.
That's Francesca. She was in the opera. Yes.
She was thankful. Thank you.
Some of my family members didn't even recognize me.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, like,
Did you
Take your time.
no, yeah. Yeah, I did. Well, I don't think that we're used to seeing the informal dresses.
Oh, good one.
Yes.
I tried that here once.
Patriot. Oh, that's right, that's right. That's right. It's actually our back to school.
Oh, is it really? Just, we wanted to make sure my husband was wearing the triple coat.
Hey, you don't succeed on that one. I don't know how.
You know, somebody did.
That is really impressive. Possible.
What do I do?
Yeah.
You know, all day is.
Right. Oh, I'm so happy.
I will tell you what sounds going on. I was thinking back, I didn't know anything.
Yeah, right.
You know? So I started Googling,
Yeah.
going, oh, they find survivors, you know, whatever, right? Easier said than done. I mean, you know, when you think, you know what I mean,
Oh, I
like,
do.
right?
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
So you and you just highlight my things. Like, that's to see what different towns.
That's a great idea. Absolutely. Great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea. Well, as well, so I had, you know, I use my
Yeah, right, right.
So that's just kind of where I'm at right now. I'm not just talking,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
yet. That'll pollution.
Yeah.
Or not. Well, anyway. Anyway, that was
Yeah.
but I was, I've got some. Hi there. How you doing?
Thanks, that's good. Yeah, that sounds real good.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you're pretty speedy.
Now let's get this.
Oh, I fractured, 2 bones in my leg.
Falling over a cord stalk.
Stepping in a hole.
Oh, stepped in a ball. Oops.
Sorry, my apologies.
No worries. I'll give you a chance to get settled in before we get started. Because we're gonna make you stand right up and do the pledge of allegiance. All right. Let's call the meeting the board meeting for the Founders Academy for the trustees for August 22nd, 2018 at 5:30 p.m. Actually, it's 5:37 p.m., 5:40 p.m. And the first item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me for a moment of silence. Thank you. Please be seated. The next item on our agenda is the reading of the mission statement for Founders Academy, and so I will do that. The Founders Academy is a public chartered school encompassing grades 6 through 12 that is free and open to all New Hampshire students. The Academy develops leaders who understand and apply the lessons of the past, demonstrate exceptional character, and lead by example. The Academy recognizes the importance of balance in the development of the whole person and respects each student's journey. Principled leadership is fostered by means of a curriculum of classical studies that includes analyzing the lives of great men and women of history, mining the rich classical ideals of the Western tradition, and tracing the evolution of the precious and costly idea of liberty. And our vision: the Founders Academy prepares wise, principled leaders by offering a classical education and providing a wide array of opportunities to lead, preparing students to be productive citizens, teaching students how to apply the American experience, and adapt to become leaders in today's and tomorrow's global economy. Emphasis on building ethical and responsible leaders in society. The next item on our agenda is our public comment period. And pursuant to policy BEDH, we have some rules that we follow during that. The rules are the first 10 minutes will be set aside for citizens to address the board. This period may be extended by a majority vote of the board. Speakers will be allotted 5 minutes per person. Members of the public may offer comments on agenda items only. The board will not entertain comments on items that do not appear on the agenda. Requests to address the board on matters not on the agenda must be presented to the dean and must set forth the specifics of the subject to be addressed. When appropriate, the board may place such requests on the agenda. Consistent with RSA 91A3, policy BEDB, and the laws pertaining to student and family privacy rights, the board will not place any matter on the public agenda that is to be properly discussed in non-public session. Complaints regarding individual employees, personnel, or students will be directed to the director in accordance with policies KE and KEB. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Obscene, libelous, defamatory, or violent statements will be considered out of order and will not be tolerated. The board chair may terminate the speaker's privilege of address if the speaker does not follow the rule of order. Persons appearing before the board are reminded that members of the board are without authority to act independently as individuals in official matters. Thus, questions may be directed to individual board members, but answers must be deferred pending consideration by the full board. And with that, we have a handful of folks who have signed up to speak today, and the first is Patrice Bernard.
Good evening, Patrice Bernard, parent of an incoming junior. Mr. Chair, I've reviewed the agenda. It's very unusual to have a board chairman remarks on the agenda. That's an unusual way to open a meeting. I'm not quite sure why that's there. In reviewing the minutes of June, which is next on your agenda, I noted that you voted on a contract and non for the Dean of Students, or Dean of School, Maureen Mooney. That is an illegal vote. As an attorney yourself, you should have known that. You cannot vote on a contract in non-public. All contract votes have to take place in public. It should have been on the agenda. The contract itself should have been available on the agenda for the public to review and to comment on. Only negotiations can take place in non-public. If you ratify those minutes, you ratify illegal vote. The Dean's report fails to include in this one the enrollment numbers. We'd like to know the enrollment numbers for the school per grade, and the number of transfers. Students who have transferred out to go elsewhere. Also on the Dean's report is the honor roll. 57% made honor roll. That means 43% failed. It's not something to brag about. When 43% of our students fail, either the teachers are failing, the curriculum's failing, or in some way the school is failing these students. I hope we'll be addressing that. The treasurer's report was not available 24 hours in advance as required by law. I hope you will rectify that in the future. I didn't have time to review it. We have a motion. The next thing you're talking about is the Parent Steering Committee. When the Parent Steering Committee was established by the board in a motion of November 29th, the motion read that the steering committee serves until the end of the school year, at which time a caucus shall be held to appoint steering committee reps for the following year. Unless you intend to violate your own policy, Mrs. Lott and Mrs. Willett should be removed from the board and not allowed to vote. Once you remove them from the board and you don't allow them to vote, you're now in violation of the RSAs for charter schools, which require 2 parents to be on the board, which makes this meeting illegal if you take any action. A copy of this video will be going up to the chair, the commissioner at the Department of Ed, Jane Waterhouse, Diane Fenton at the State Department of Ed, and also to Tom Donovan, because I believe this meeting is illegal. Also on the agenda is a student handbook. The mission statement is incorrect in that handbook. It is not the one that is in the charter. I would ask that that be revised. The dean's letter that begins the handbook says the school has grown. Well, it has not. Schools don't grow. Student populations can grow, but they have not. Mentions roundtables as being this resounding success and rigorous founding fathers curriculum. No. Ask our students. It's not. She also calls herself the Dean of Parents. She has no authority over the parents. None whatsoever. We have a teacher code of conduct in there. I'm not quite sure how they can have respect for the mission when our administration fails to respect the mission and vision. Our mission and vision include classical education. No one in their right mind would call this a classical education. We have no Latin teacher. We have no Greek teacher. We have very few Socratic seminars. This is not a classical education. In that handbook, you reserve the right to change it, well then I reserve the right to not comply. When you say you don't have a mail to TFA emails, then you lie, because of course you do. There are so many mays in that book, kids can't tell what's right and what's wrong, because there's way too many mays and it's way too subjective. That should be tabled and reviewed, again, with a policy committee, so that parents and students and teachers can actively work on it together. You're going to bring forth a business curriculum tonight, but that has not been brought to the parents, has not come to the curriculum committee and had a public hearing. You're going to have a NAEP presentation done by someone who is not an employee of the school, someone who should have no business involved anywhere in the testing. I would ask you to please ask a member of the school that we paid, someone employee, to do presentations on testing. And I see that my time is up. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bedard. The next person who's signed up to speak is Glenn Douglas.
Just asking if people are on the list. 5 minutes left.
We will not cut you off, so don't worry about the time, but there's 3 others after you.
Kind of stuck in a pickle here. There was a lot of issues last year. I am concerned, and I've addressed before that I'm concerned about what seems to be a change in curriculum. There's a lot of things on here that I do have questions on. Actually, I read over it last night and had a slam day at work, and when I printed out the agenda tonight to come, I noticed that the agenda was updated. I don't really know what was added. In my school district, whenever there was policy changes, it was a requirement we had to hold a public hearing so that parents had the ability to say something. Unfortunately, I really think that's lacking here. biggest concern is the public comment policy, BEDH. You limit people to 10 minutes, you limit people to 5 minutes, and you limit people to what's on the agenda. I've been to 3 different meetings where under new business, things have been brought up that weren't on the agenda, that were discussed. A couple of them were very interesting to me, but I had absolutely no ability to say anything because it wasn't on the agenda. So if parents are limited to what's on the agenda, why isn't the board limited to putting what they're going to discuss on the agenda? And as far as cutting people off, that was done last year. If 2 people show up and talk for 5 minutes each, they're done. I think there's a big problem and a concern last year that parents weren't being heard. They showed up to the meeting, they were continually shut down. BEDH was resurrected, and it was set in law that we're going to cut you off after 10 minutes. I was in a meeting, and I know you do, and there were probably 7, 8 people that wanted to speak. And because 2 people went long, they were told, sorry, please leave, we're not going to have anything to say. The other issue I have, which I brought up to 3 chairs so far, is when something is presented to the board, you stand here, you say your piece, you walk away, you never hear anything, and the board says, sorry, we can't address you. That's not New Hampshire law. I've been to school boards where they do address questions, and I think if the board addressed the questions that were presented, we could eliminate a lot of the back and forth, blog postings and all of this stuff. Like I said, I hope I've never had to go to another school board. I came here, unfortunately, I feel that I have to, and we don't even know what's going on with the curriculum. Changes. No idea. You can't ask questions because half of this stuff is just line item. What does it mean? I'll stop right there because I know there's other people.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. The next is Mrs. Sandville.
I wanted to speak to the dress code tonight that is on the agenda to be spoken about. I understand after looking at being a parent here and having children with the old dress code and looking at the new dress code, I have some concerns that I wanted to bring to you tonight. I understand that the dress code does need to be updated. There are some things that were perhaps maybe left out that seems appropriate that the students be allowed to wear. It needs to be, I understand that it also needs to be enforceable, and that may have spurred some of the action that administration wanted to move forward with the new dress code. I'm proud of the current dress code. I think that some of the wording in the proposed new dress code needs to be changed and clarified, including some of the usage of the word of modest, which is very subjective. There's a few other points where, in order to make it non-gender biased, some of the wording that it talks about sheer leggings or sheer things need to be covered with a skirt or dress. It's easy to change that to say unless covered by other clothing, thereby eliminating some of that gender bias. My fear is, as a mother of 3 daughters, I don't want to be having any body shaming, or I want it to be written in a way that it can be enforceable for teachers, but also is not biased. Under the new code, it appears that we'll be allowing open back and shoulderless shirts, so I want people to be aware of that. We have not addressed that specifically. The old code included some wording that said, quote, to create a professional appearance, unquote. And I feel that the dress code is a reflection of our school and our students, and they should be dressing as representatives of this. I feel that some of the changes proposed are a little bit of a step down and not a step up. For instance, I have a couple other for instances. I understand also that from an administrative standpoint that the teachers need to be heard, and this is something that has been talked about for quite some time and moving forward, but I'm asking you when this item comes up to table it and to get more teacher input, student input, and parent input before you move forward with it. There was a meeting held, there was not enough notice given to parents, there was a very low turnout, and even though it's been kind of discussed in Senate, kind of discussed in House, and some teachers and some parents and some students have been spoken to, it's not enough of the student body, in my opinion. I also feel like, in coming to the meetings for the last 2 years, it feels like it's been being done a little bit behind closed doors, and we really want to push forward with transparency because of the timeline, because of it feeling rushed. And if you haven't understood kind of the roots of that comment, then I apologize. It's not meant to be taken in a bad way. But I think the more people that we have on board, the more students we have on board, and the more parents that are going to uphold it, the more well-received it's going to be, and that really is the intent of it. So I would think carefully when this item comes up before you, and ask you to table it and get back to it in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sandville. Rachel Sandville is on the list.
I know most of you in this room, and I know everyone on the board, but for those of you who I don't know, I'm Rachel Sandville. I'll be returning this year as an 11th grader, and I love the Founders Academy. I made it my life, and nothing makes me happier than being at school and being around all these amazing teachers and being a part of this amazing community. I don't often ask the board to table something. I would agree with my mother with a lot of what she mentioned about the dress code. I worry that there were 3 people at the last meeting where they discussed it with the student body. I would ask that you guys waited until school started again. I know I would love to talk to some students once school starts, and I would love to get a whole bunch of people to come. I was not able to make the last meeting, and I know I would love to be a part of it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And Francesca Vesey.
Last week when they had the meeting to discuss the new dress, making a new dress code, I was one of the 3 students that showed up. I don't think there was enough notice because there was, as I said, only 3. And I heard I was the only one who officially RSVP'd. I like a lot of the new changes. Some of them it was kind of hard to decide on what to do because there was not as many students. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Those are all the individuals that have signed up for the public comment period, and so with that, we'll move on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is board chairman remarks, and that's my opportunity to give a warm welcome to the many new families and returning families here at Founders, and express how important it is to value new students, value the current students that we have. Our students are our customers, and we're here, they have choices, and they have to choose us, which means we have to do a good job in valuing and appreciating what they do, and I want to express that as strongly as I can. I also want to, as a part of my comments, go over the school visitation policy. And this policy is developed for the safety of the students, and we encourage everyone that would want to visit our school to visit and to volunteer. But there is a need for a policy about doing so that we assure that the kids are safe while they're here. So this policy reads, the safety procedures for all school visitors. All visitors and school staff must comply with the following procedures regarding school visits. The main entrance of the school building shall be used for all exits and entries to school anytime the building is accessed, except in cases of fire or emergency. All visitors must report to the front desk to identify themselves and receive visitor's badge. Proper identification must be presented in order to receive a badge. Proper identification includes a driver's license or other government-issued personal identification card, passport, or current employee identification card from a local or federal government agency or private entity. All visitors must sign the school visitor log. The log shall have appropriate columns so that visitors can provide their name, agency, office, purpose of visit or person they are visiting, times of entry and departure, and badge number if applicable. Visitors must follow the instructions provided to them at the time of signing in. The school may limit the areas and time during which the visitors may access the building, but not in a manner that will unreasonably infringe upon the rights of parents or a parent's designee to observe or support a child in the classroom. The scope and duration of the visit will correspond with the purpose of the visit. Visitors must wear or display their visitor's badge at all times while on school premises. All visitors must sign out on the visitor's log prior to exiting the building and return their visitor's badge to security. All staff members shall relay concerns regarding the presence or conduct of visitors to a member of administration immediately so that further appropriate action may be taken. All visitors to the school who wish to visit a classroom should schedule the visit in advance. If a visitor wishes to observe a classroom, they shall receive prior consent from the teacher. This is to avoid disruption in the classroom. All information regarding students in the classroom is considered confidential. Anyone entering a class without a visitor's badge and permission may be asked to leave the class. And that was adopted by the Policy Committee on April 12th, 2018, and approved by the board on May 16th, 2018. And as I said in the introduction to that, the real motivation here is for school safety these days, you just must know who comes and who goes and have some control over it. And I wanted to make sure that I read that as a part of my remarks here today. And that's all that I have for board chairman remarks. The next item on our agenda is review and approval of the minutes from the June board meeting. That's the June 20th meeting. I believe we have those here in our packet, correct? Any discussion regarding the minutes?
I don't know if it's been updated, but I did want to have it reflected that the last two roll call votes, when we came out of non-public session, it actually says that I abstained from both of those votes, and that is not the case. I actually did approve those votes. So just want to make sure that it's in there.
So that is,
It wasn't the last time I printed something out, so.
okay. So those votes are both affirmative, aye votes. Okay. Any other comments or questions about minutes?
Well, Mrs. Bernard brought something up. Is she right about that? Or should we change the minutes according to her suggestion?
Comments or comments? Let's discuss it as a board.
Well, I'll address the steering committee membership comments. We did put that out for a legal opinion for the steering committee. They were appointed for a term of 1 year, and the board may consider 1 year to be 12 months. So we had viewed it as they would be board members through January. And there's a recommendation coming later, in fact, on the agenda, to extend those terms through June for the purpose of continuity. We appointed them as new parent board members, is how I have it recorded. And as a new parent board member, we are fulfilling the requirements of the charter in RSA 194B:5(2). So we've already put that out for a legal opinion. So that piece of it we have addressed. I can speak to that.
Well, what about the idea that of the contract? I have no idea whether the right thing or the wrong thing, or whether it should be the public session or the private section, but does anybody know? Yeah, what is it we voted on?
So my understanding is that when you are making decisions in a non-public session, you've got to disclose the decision that was made when you come out of non-public session, which is the course of action that we've taken. If the board wants to take some other action in order to be particularly careful or cautious about the process, I don't see any harm in doing that.
Well, I don't think we should do it unless it is something required by law. But if it is, I think we shouldn't do it.
Well,
We need to vote on it then.
So why don't we hold it in suspension? I mean, we could just automatically do that, but we should actually know whether
it is how it was recommended that we do it, but we can double check the documents.
Then why don't we just leave it at that then?
But I do agree with what Kim had said with respect to the appointment of the parent members from the steering committee, that the board has the ability to make its recommendations or make its appointments for whatever term it chooses, and then interpret its decision as appropriate. Let's take a minute to look at the law. I don't want to spend too much time doing this. If it takes a bit of a deeper dive, then.
You know, some ghastly violation of the minutes, but if there isn't, then it's gonna happen.
So RSA 91A3, Roman numeral 2, is the list of the matters that shall be considered or acted upon in non-public session. And this is the list of only the things that may be. The first is the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of the employee unless that particular employee wants to have a hearing. The hiring of any person as a public employee. Those things, those two things are going to embody a contract. Let me see, look a little further and see if there's anything that changes that view. So, consideration of position.
Maybe we should just leave the minutes in suspension, pending figuring out.
All right, let's do that. Yeah, I don't want to get the wrong.
And then we can approve them next meeting. And if we need to amend them, we can do that.
Okay. I think that that's the right course of action. Does any member of the board object to table those minutes until next time rather than consider it? Okay. So let's move on the agenda. The student trustees report, we don't have one for tonight, is that correct?
Correct.
We have a dean's report. Maureen.
All right. That was quick. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the audience. I'm so glad to see so many students here this evening. Excellent, thank you, especially on a summer day. You could be doing 1,000 other things, and here you are learning more about your school. So thank you for that. My dean's report, as all my dean's reports, are found attached to the agendas online and so forth, archived. I'm just going to highlight a couple points. We are entering a school year, again, on September 4th, 2018. 7:45, the first bell will ring. But this isn't just any school year. This is what I've told faculty and staff is a celebratory year. We are celebrating 5 years of Founders' existence. We are celebrating the completion, that is the opening of our 12th grade, the completion of our high school, our first graduation in 2019. This is a year of celebration, a lot to be thankful for, and I'd like that to be one of our many themes going forward, starting September 4th. I'd also like to introduce a new member of the administrative team, that is Ms. Paula Stewart, who is our new Director of Student Affairs. And it's great to have her on board and welcome her. She will be overseeing student services, discipline, and registrar. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to close my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the dean's report. Any questions by members of the board for our dean? Treasurer's report is next.
One more point of mention, Mr. Chairman, that is I have on my agenda, that tentatively Ms. Marcotte was going to present on professional development. She could not make it here tonight, though updates of what she has been doing over the summer have been mentioned in the parent newsletter, so that item will not take place this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, as you know, July is a very slow month for the school year. Income doesn't really match with the expenses that are still ongoing. And we didn't have as many summer programs running as we thought was possible. We are still awaiting our payments from the state for last fiscal year. I think, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory. If anyone needs any more information, let me know.
Questions by members of the board?
So I just think where we do have lots of new parents that are starting to look at the school, if we can talk just a little bit more, and maybe with Kim's, Mrs. Valley's history, she might be a better person to talk about the check that we're going to receive and kind of how that normal flow works and how it's worked this summer. If you don't mind.
No, not at all. So charter schools are paid 3 checks, approximately 30% in each check. 3 times, you get 3 of them. September, November, and February is typically when you're paid. And then you go from February until September until you have a really sizable check again. In the summer, you have, it's kind of a catch-up check where they go through your average daily attendance by half days. They compare your students. If they transfer in, they transfer out. And they calculate this. It can take quite a while. I know the DOE's been doing a lot of work to try and streamline this. So the checks this year are, ours is a little bit behind. So it is due in today. We have to look at the bank account again. But it's approximately, I think it's about 2 weeks behind where it was last year. The first couple of years, we would receive the check in July. They're trying to do something where charter schools are submitting their end-of-year reports first, and then the traditional public schools are submitting theirs. So when you submit it, it looks like it's done, and then the public schools send it back. A common error might be a child left on the 5th of the month here, and they're recorded as being present here on the 5th and present in the new school on the 5th. And then you can go in and change the dates, the enrollment date, and so forth. Sometimes they code charter schools as private schools, and they have to go back in and fix it. A lot of the errors are not errors that we can fix on our end, and the same for traditional public schools. You need the other school to do the fix for you to get it through, and then you go through again and certify. So it's quite a process for every school, I believe, out there, every public school. I know they're trying to streamline this, but the check, we do have it coming. It's for approximately $198,000 and change, and it should be in the bank tonight, according to the ACH report.
Comments or questions?
So this, the report that was put up online that we talked about, this is for July.
It is for July, the month of July.
Correct, so this is not August, it's not the month that we're in, because we're running, again, this is a conversation for, you know, to kind of bring everybody up to speed as a new school year, so.
Right, well, we're still in August, so there's no way that we could actually have a August financial report.
Exactly, so we close a month and then we can report on it.
Absolutely.
So as long as we let everybody know that at the same time, because sometimes, you know, you may not have had to look at it this way before.
And June will be presented, the end of year, the end of fiscal year is June 30th. That will be reported in September when the audit is presented. They're still going through. They do adjusting journal entries. They've sent over a draft. Now it's on the school and the board to review the draft and look for any possible errors that they may have made, or if we see something that we need to change. We're going back and forth, so a full report on June and the fiscal year 18 will be reported in September at the board meeting. That's open. There'll be a PowerPoint, I believe. It's be presented on the wall and available to everyone to come.
Anything else on treasurer's report before we do this, the review of the short-term loan?
That's just
Is there any introduction or anything we should consider for the board?
just that we have the line of credit and it's currently maxed out.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Which happens every summer, and we pay it back. So the school, most charter schools run with a line of credit because of the way the per pupil aid is done. So in the summer, you have a line of credit, and then we always have a board meeting indicating that the line is there, and when we draw down on it, the idea is that it's always paid back by November. The November check is paid back in full every year.
Any questions about treasurer's report before we go? Okay.
Do we need to have a motion to accept the treasurer's report as it's been presented? I make that.
Make that motion. So Susan makes the motion. Seconds the motion to accept the treasurer's report. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? So 5-0-0 to accept the treasurer's report. During the beginning of the treasurer's report, I was still distracted by taking a look at 91A to see what that provision was about contracts. And I think that I sort of understand the comments that were made about contracts in public, and I believe that that provision regards or deals with consideration by a school board entering into a student or pupil tuition contract authorized by RSA 194 and 195, and then the rest of the paragraph kind of describes how that happens. However, I don't want to jump back on the agenda to deal with minutes. Let's get a formal opinion that's not rushed through the meeting, but I think that that explains where the questions came from. Item 7 is board business, and under there, the first item is the parent steering committee, and under that is review by the board of the terms of the current trustees. I know that you kind of gave a little bit of an explanation of this earlier, but let's hear it again.
Sure. So we had a question in general, it had been raised about the parent steering committee board members. When they were nominated and voted onto the board, it was for a one-year term. In the board's opinion, it was a 12-month, one-year term. The steering committee membership must be renewed annually, but the board members that are appointed, according to the legal opinion that we asked for, they absolutely may be for 12 months, and for purposes of continuity, I think they should be extended to the end of June so that we can start having all of our board terms end at June, and we can organize everyone at an annual meeting in June for renewal or new board members coming in.
So the situation is that in February, we appointed 2 members from the steering committee to the board, and our minutes reflect that they're appointed for a year, for a one-year term. And that would run through the next February. And we could now decide whether we wish to extend those to next June just for purposes of continuity. What's the board's discussion or consideration of that particular idea?
I'm in favor.
My opinion is I serve with pleasure. I went through the parent steering committee process and was nominated and am very happy to be serving. I don't want to overstay my welcome by any means. And I can't speak for Christy, but I can definitely speak for myself. I'm here and I'm here to do work, and as long as you need me, I'm here.
Barbara, any thoughts?
So it's my understanding that normally the board nominees end at the school year so that then starting up a new school year, there's new parents that can apply. Is that my correct understanding? So new parents coming in could also apply.
It depends on if they're placed on the board as a new board member or replacing a board member who's left.
Okay. In this case, it was replacing
It was new board members.
Board members.
It was new board members. It was the first time we had parent steering committee nominees come through as required by our charter.
Okay.
We formed the committee. I have the policy in front of me if anybody would like to review it. There isn't anything in the policy that stops the board members from serving a full year or being renewed.
Okay.
There is something that stops the committee members at the end of the school year. And then there's a caucus again when school starts,
Okay.
or when the chair decides it will be done. Christy Ouellette serves as the chair of the parent steering committee. She is the other person with Sue. So there's absolutely nothing saying that they can't serve a year, and there's nothing saying that the board can't choose to extend their term, to just start lining everybody up too through June.
To me, then it makes sense for continuity for the school year, to extend it to the end of the school year.
I think the PTSA did, it's not the same committee, obviously, but I think they did something similar with their officers, just to keep it consistent as they roll through.
What we did was, because we were just, the conversation started last October, and we started talking, we needed something, and then it was, okay, well, what are we gonna have? And then we started talking about bylaws, and by the time we really kind of started putting our round to everything, it was around February, if I recall correctly. And what we said was we would do 18 months, the first round, and then we'd think about it with the bylaws after we, just to gain some traction as an organization.
Right, and it doesn't make sense if you have things started and put in place midway through the school year to try and redo it again.
Well, and the reality was, we really only ended up having basically from March to June to really do anything that could help the school.
Right.
To that end, and, we did end up getting the art teachers 2 new printers, and, everybody in the committee was, everybody was receptive to having a place for parents to come and, be part of the school and help, so.
So then I'm in favor of extending.
So it seems like there's some consensus on the board. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we extend maturities until June.
Till the end of June 2019? Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I have to abstain.
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? One abstaining? So the motion carries 4-0-1 to extend those terms. And then the next item under the Parent Steering Committee is the date for the caucus in September 2018.